Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. She is former Trump administration attorney Jenna Ellis, who decided to come back. And frankly, we are shocked that the American Family Radio group allowed her to return, where she broadcasts every morning. That they thought, you got out of there without letting them embarrass you once. Do not tempt fate and do that again. Nevertheless, when we asked Jenna if she wanted to return, she said yes. So good to see you, Jenna. Thank you for being with us.
I'm a fan, so.
All right. Well, good. A lot going on here today. Feedback Friday coming your way next hour. Before we get to the Deace Group, though, I especially with Jenna here, as someone who worked in the last administration, I would like to get everybody's reaction to a conversation I had this morning right before I came in. Some of you may have seen that one of our social media coordinators here at Blaze Media, Ashton DeGroot, her husband and brother-in-law were doing ministry over in Israel and had been stranded there throughout the week. They were staying in a hotel, and the hotel was telling people they were going to shut everything down to preserve power and everything for 3 days, may not have a path out of there. And luckily, a gentleman named Corey Mills came forward and was able to get them out of there as of last night, I think is what she told me. But the other thing she mentioned to me, just very disappointing. Did you guys know it is a long-standing policy of the United States government that if you're an American citizen who has to be evacuated, you have to pay them back? On top of that, they can't tell you, they'll put you in a friendlier country, and then you have to find your way home from there. And I just was listening to her tell me about how difficult it was working. And she goes, I really wanted to just blame this on the Biden administration, but my understanding is this has actually been standing U.S. policy for many years. But the idea of, but then she went on to say how terribly planned this was. You have to be ready at a minute's notice. You can only carry 2 bags. They can't tell you in advance what country you're going to be dropped off in, and then once you get there, you have to find your way home from there. There was a limited availability. Her husband and brother-in-law were able to use it to get to Amman, Jordan, but Jordan is now shutting that path down. Why? Because Israel is telling people in the Gaza Strip, get the hell out of there, given what we're about to do to that place. Well, one of the people that you hear referred to as Palestinians, there's no such thing as a Palestinian. It's a people group that does not exist. They're basically Arab squatters, people who were kicked out of countries like Jordan, who didn't want them. And so the problem is, if Jordan allows Americans or other nationalities to escape out of the Gaza Strip through their path, it won't just be those people coming through there, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're going to shut it down because they don't want a bunch of the quote-unquote Palestinians going into that route coming into their country either. Just listening to her give me details of this and thinking, how much money do we give a year so that we can help promote Sodom and Gomorrah in Madagascar, Iceland? We've given $150 million and $1 billion in the last year and a half to Ukraine. And we're going to tell American citizens you got to pay the government back. I already paid the government, brah. It's called every year till June 1st if I actually have a job, because that's how long it takes me every year to pay off my tax debt to you. I just was listening to this and it was infuriating thoughts. Oh, one last thing I want to add, Jenna, before I let you chime in. She's younger than us, closer in age to you, Aaron, so millennial. She's like, I kind of knew this wasn't the same country it was for my parents and grandparents, but this experience has really shown me. It's just, there were people in this ministry from Mexico and other places. They got out, didn't have to pay their governments back or anything else. Only place that was this difficult to deal with was this one. Jenna, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was thinking exactly the same thing that you just said about Ukraine, that, we give billions of dollars in foreign aid to other countries to help them out and supposedly promote and spread democracy. Well, what about protecting and preserving our own citizens so that we can actually enjoy the blessings of liberty if we happen to be overseas or we happen to be caught up in one of these terrorist attacks? I mean, last I checked, we pay taxes for things like fire, police, and other things in our communities. And yet we have to pay the government back. I did know this was a longstanding policy, and I think it's a terrible one, and one that shows just how much we undervalue our own country. But this is what the Biden administration is now prolific for. I mean, they're closing, or they're not closing the border. They're just allowing all of these people to come in. And then we wonder why today is being called the day of rage or the day of jihad. I mean, for all of these people who are unvetted that are just flooding the borders, what are we doing to secure Americans' freedom and liberty, whether they're physically located in the United States or elsewhere? It's shameful, and it needs to change.
By the way, amen. By the way, Todd, the flight for her brother-in-law and husband to get home from Jordan, $3,500 a seat. By the way, $3,500 a seat.
Just to be clear, this is the longstanding policy vis-a-vis Israel specifically?
No,
or
in general.
In general, no matter where
if you are stranded and we have to come rescue, you pay us back.
I remember some of these stories when Ukraine was getting hot a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm actually moderately encouraged that was the answer, because otherwise it would just be rank anti-Semitism or something like that have to do with it. So,
which is Thursday, based on what we've seen this week.
I don't know. I mean, is it best case scenario? Is this some kind of bean counter spreadsheet thing where, because there's so many Americans who go across the world doing things like this and potential hotspots? But again, that makes sense maybe in a rational world, but as Jenna and you have already pointed out, when we are just like burning money in Ukraine,
right?
Aren't we talking pencil dust on some level?
Right.
And when did we start caring about budgetary issues?
Aaron?
This is the result of a government and a bureaucracy that is set against its own people, that it's set against its own employers. This is what you get. You get long-standing policies like this. It's just fundamentally anti-citizen, anti-American.
Great point.
It's just that. And the reason why Ashton, I believe, told you, Steve, this is, kind of had an idea this is not the same country that it was for my parents and grandparents. It's because it's not. It's not. We are set against, we are opposed, we are insurgents in a country that is not our own anymore.
And with that, it is time for the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was, brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. We hope there will come a day that we won't have to promote ministries and organizations like Preborn any longer, but we're not quite there yet. But thankfully, Preborn was actually prepared for the post-Roe era, unlike a lot of pro-life leadership, because they were already doing that kind of localized, heart-to-heart, hand-to-hand combat spiritually in ministry to save babies and the moms. They were already out there interacting individually with mothers. First of all, confronting them, albeit gently, but confronting them nevertheless with the truth of an ultrasound so that they can hear the heartbeat of their own baby. And over the years, about 80% of the time, a woman hears that, she does not go through with killing her child. And you know what? Those ultrasounds cost only $28. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in this audience, you'd spend $28 on 80% odds to save a life. But then they also know that, hey, if you're a woman in a secure, healthy relationship and you're pregnant, you're probably not looking to get an abortion. It's women like my mom was, 14 and pregnant. Those are the kinds of women that are not in those kinds of relationships. They're usually the ones out to get abortions. And so they know they need to love them both, and they're there for the mom as well. They offer everything from prenatal to postnatal care, counseling, car seats, baby formula, all of that free of charge as well, provided there's enough from people like us. If you want to make a tax-deductible donation today, just dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that is preborn.com/Steve. Once again, that's preborn.com/Steve. Let's get to issue one. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
first. I spoke to a guy before this, and he said America first. You weren't happy with that. Why?
Israel would not exist without America.
So no America first for you?
No.
Are you an American?
Yes.
And you don't want to put America first?
No.
And I think it's despicable what they're protesting for and what you are protesting for. And the fact that you can't condemn women and children and elderly people being murdered in the streets.
What about it?
Do you condemn it?
I already said.
Why can't you say yes?
Because I already gave you my answer.
You didn't give an answer. And I think anybody who would watch this would understand what your actual position is here. 3 people that are going to watch your bullshit video, Russell.
Should your colleague Rashida Tlaib still have the Palestinian flag outside of her office?
I don't know what. She's Palestinian. You know, that doesn't mean she's a terrorist. It doesn't mean that she condones this. Rashida. I fly a Danish flag at my house. Does it mean what?
I couldn't think of a better gift for Benjamin Netanyahu right now than this kind of incursion.
You're saying that you would want the United States and Israel to bomb Iran, even in the absence of direct evidence of their involvement in this attack.
Yeah.
You all should need to know that America is not sending their best and brightest, to Washington, D.C. Yes. Like, sometimes you literally just can't believe, these people are making the decisions that are, determining the government here. It's actually scary, too.
Well, most ethics are dead on this show, but not chivalry. So the guest and ladies always go first. Jenna Ellis, what was the most disturbing phenomena you were just made to witness?
All of it, frankly, but especially the fact that Americans don't think that they have an obligation to be America first. I mean, we all have heritage. We understand that, America is a country that has only existed for 250 years, and we all come from, other places in terms of our ancestry. But in terms of our obligation to the United States, especially if you are a sitting elected official in federal office, should be to American interests first. And for some of those, I believe that was a Colorado representative, my former home state, because I saw that video, who refused to condemn the terror and the atrocities. I mean, that is just something that is unacceptable for anyone on any level of elected office to not be willing to condemn the beheading of babies, the burning of innocent women and children. I don't care who you are, what your ancestry is. If there was someone that, came from whatever my lineage is, that they were committing these types of atrocities, if this were Christians that share my same faith, I would condemn that and say that is not in line with what my faith and my religion espouses. And I wouldn't just equivocate. And so for these people who are elected officials, not just college students or, some random person off the street, but people who are actually setting policy in states and policy for the federal government in office, this is atrocious, and they should be primaried. They should not hold elected office. I think that's disqualifying, and that is horrific.
Amen. Todd, everybody knows about all of the tragic Danish incursions upon human decency and border sovereignty.
What did the people of Denmark do?
And nationalistic identity that the world is suffering under. So it is a completely morally equivalent exercise to fly the Danish flag as well as the Palestinian flag. Everyone knows this, Todd. Everyone knows this.
Well, per your right as host of the show, you trying to force my hand to comment on this, but I was going to comment on this, Klein, anyways. So much of the other insanity that you see is possible because of soft-headed twits in the government and out and everywhere, like Steny Hoyer, who's just like, what? That's just her jam. She's just speaking over there. When, how many times in the last 5 years, when you say the wrong thing on COVID, when you say the wrong thing on January 6th, when you watch big tech shut people down, has Steny Hoyer been the vanguard of speech? Not to my knowledge. It is because of nonsense like that you allow that you will not even refuse to check the absurdity of the woman in that hallway who simultaneously has the Palestinian flag and the trans flag in there, and never the twain shall meet. When you just keep allowing in this world and never smack it around and spank it like you would even your child that you love, because that needs to stop. That's how "it shall never happen again" happens again, and you have people in America shouting "gas the Jews."
So true. And that was an amen, by the way, from Todd, who is if you're seeing me wrangle puppies, not to put a lighthearted note on all of this atrocity, but if you hear him weigh in, he was just saying an amen. So
Jenna's puppy bailed you out, Aaron, because you were going to have to directly follow that just straight up lay down the ordinance homily that Todd just dropped on the show, and now there's been a tension breaker, so you've got a shot.
One of the best Babylon Bee headlines of the entire year thus far. Rashida Tlaib's Palestinian flag throws Rashida Tlaib's trans flag off of the Senate office building roof.
I know.
That might be the greatest headline they've ever done.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
For everything that Todd just said, it is Steny Hoyer. And I just love the reaction there. He's like, hey guys, I've got a Danish flag at my house.
I know.
And then he's like, wait a minute, that joke didn't go over well. What was the question again? What did the poor what did the poor Danish do to deserve being compared to Hamas? I would like that question answered. But Todd is absolutely right. Steny Hoyer is the embodiment. And again, we get the leaders we deserve. So he's there. He's not an aberration. None of the people in Washington are aberrations. They are reflective of the people who sent them there. And those people are legion, like Steny Hoyer. Just feeble, old, and soft-minded. So John Fetterman, without any self-awareness, is correct. Dude. So we've gone from the bald eagle to the bald Fetterman is the new national symbol. Basically. I'm legitimately starting to get a crush on John Fetterman. Not the way maybe he would like it or anybody else would like it, but he is just so perfect. John Fetterman, 2028 Democratic nominee. Perfect. He's just no self-awareness, calling out the entire charade for what it is. And it's somebody
of which he is a symbol,
who is a walking VAERS report. Yes, just calling all of this out for what it is. I love the guy. I really do.
All of the Babylon Bee articles about Fetterman and how they're changing all of the rules in the Senate. My favorite one was that the Senate votes to allow Fetterman to use the reflection pool as his own personal bathtub and put him in there with a little rubber ducky. That was amazing. I would love to see that actually happen.
Exit question on a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 representing the odds, Lindsey Graham would survive a second in combat if he had to fight any of the wars he's constantly demanding we start. And 10 being how much Lindsey Graham would enjoy being treated like a prisoner of war. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Aaron. 10. Todd.
10.
Jenna.
I'm going to go with 12. That's always my answer, apparently, on these shows.
All right, there you go. Issue 2, war.
The country of Israel suffered a brutal surprise attack last weekend as members of the terrorist organization Hamas overwhelmed the unsuspecting Israelis. Hamas launched a ground, sea, and air attack from various locations in the Gaza Strip. One of the first targets of the terrorist organization was a concert for peace where hundreds of young people gathered and were murdered. Hamas also hit several towns near the border of the Gaza Strip, going from house to house, executing men, women, and children, and taking women and children hostage. Videos circulated online showing Hamas terrorists back in Gaza with their hostages, parading them naked through the streets. Before and during the surprise attack, Hamas launched an innumerable amount of rockets into Israel, apparently overwhelming Israel's vaunted Iron Dome defense system. Videos also show Hamas using drones to target ambulances and other soft targets. As of Friday, at least 1,300 are dead, with thousands injured and hundreds more taken hostage. At least 22 Americans are dead, with more being held captive. On Sunday into Monday, Israel began retaliatory strikes that lasted throughout the week against Hamas in Gaza, downing several civilian buildings and mosques used by the terrorists to cover for their activities.
All right, I'm not drawing a moral equivalency between the two because I don't think they're morally equivalent, but I do think that this should always be asked every single time, whether it's Ukraine, Afghanistan, or Israel. Todd, what is the mission? What is victory here, and is it achievable?
Listen, we have gotten used to, as Americans, since our founding, alliances shifting. Are we with the British this time? Are we with the French? And for what reason? And goodness knows we can't figure out. We're in Ukraine right now, but even in Palestine, Republicans and Democrats all trying to feng shui peace. How can we say the right thing and do the right thing where we just start singing the Coca-Cola song together and everybody lives in harmony? And I'm telling you, maybe that's possible in some circumstances, but again, going back through Joshua and Deuteronomy, it is abundantly clear. God even makes it plain to the people of Israel. Yes, I'm bringing you back into the Holy Land, but lest you get too high on your own supply and think this is about picking sides and tribes. I mean, yes, you're my people and all that, but I want you to make plain about what's happening here. It's because it's evil and it needs to be punished. And that's what fundamentally has to happen here. Hamas needs to be over. Done. Period. End of sentence. And it warranted it, and it brought it upon itself, and it brought it upon its own women and children as well. Those videos going out of, kindergartners talking about how the Jew must die. Everybody's comfortable dipping. They like the hippie Jesus. They're terrified of what happens in the Old Testament. But the just thing to do is to end them.
Aaron.
So the mission here is to completely and utterly root out Hamas, whether that's in the Gaza Strip, elsewhere around the country of Israel, or in Qatar, where their leaders live cushy lifestyles plotting more terrorist attacks. That is the mission.
And do frequent TV interviews on Qatari television, just openly talking about what they did.
Yeah. Victory here is what I just said. That's the mission. It is carrying that out, making sure Hamas no longer has any ground to stand on. The Gaza Strip is no more. In my mind, this two-state solution thing, it's never been achievable. It's never been workable. Anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear knew that for
Looks
decades.
a lot like the final solution to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think even what you do with the Palestinian civilians, that don't exist. What you do with the people, the squatters who live in the area known as Gaza Strip, make Egypt take them, make the Arab nations, neighbors take them.
No, you had it right. The Muslim Brotherhood nations, make them take them.
Yeah. So I think that's the final victory here. And I think it's achievable if and only if the people of Israel and their government have the will to do it. That's all this boils down to. Do you have the will? No half measures. One of the greatest scenes in the entire series of my favorite or second favorite TV show, it's that or Lost, Breaking Bad, when Mike Armentrout is trying to, I believe, dissuade Walter White, the main protagonist, anti-hero, from going through with some hit on some drug person. And Mike says, no half measures, Walt. If you do a half measure, you're going to make this insurmountably worse for yourself in the long run. Half measures are always doomed to fail and even make things worse in the long run. No half measures.
To further your point, we're here because the Israelis in 2005 did a half measure.
Yes.
Instead of just a flat out Palestinian state, they gave them autonomy and sovereignty over the Gaza Strip. They could vote in their own government, vote in their own leaders, had their own infrastructure right at their own doorstep. And we're talking about a country, guys, that its landmass is about the size of New Hampshire. This is a very small area. And they gave the essentially Hamas and what was left of the old PLO, they essentially gave them the Gaza Strip as a homeland, even though they have no claim to the land at all. So when you hear people like Rashida Tlaib and others and people on college campuses using the term apartheid, this is not apartheid. They gave them that land. And they responded with what you just saw take place on Saturday. Jenna.
This is evil, and we have to remember that all authority belongs to God, and he has instituted and ordained 3 spheres of government: the civil government, the church government, and the family government. And if the United States wants to be a leader on the world stage and in contemporary politics, we can't stand by and watch evil persist. And it doesn't matter who is the initial aggressor or who is the defender. We should call out evil, and we should be willing to do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with our God and be willing to exact a measure of punishment. This is what the institutions are ordained for. And I think that if the United States wants to have any moral authority, then we will stand up and fight to protect victims of these types of atrocities. And so I think that the United States also needs to remember that our initial mandate in the Declaration of Independence, this was before America was even under the U.S. Constitution. This was before we existed in the nation that we recognize today, or even at our founding. Our founders understood that our rights as human beings, not just as Americans, but every human being is made in the image of God, has inherent dignity and worth. And when you have one sect that is calling for the total annihilation of another country just based on their national heritage, their skin color, whatever it is, that is evil. It needs to be rooted out and it needs to be utterly destroyed.
All three of you, very well said. We got a little extra time, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna amend the exit question. And I'd like each of you in about a minute, I'll give each of you a minute here, lay out for me, just following the intelligentsia world that we inhabit, we're the opinion making world. What was the most disappointing / craziest thing that you saw this week in reaction to these events? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I would say, once again, it's the people. Epistemological. It's not just crisis. It's not just. It's a nuclear winter out there, and it's not without good reason either. I have to keep reminding myself. I don't blame people for wanting to check and recheck and be really suspicious of sources, but there's that, and then there's everything is a psyop. And we say that a lot because there are a lot of psyops. Nothing is true. Everything is propaganda. Guys, we can't operate in that world. We just can't. I was propagandized once, therefore everything is propaganda. It's just the same thing as I believe everything I hear on MSNBC.
It's a different form of reactionaryism.
Just a different form of reactionaryism. And that's, to me, that's the most disappointing thing I've seen this week.
Todd, quickly, so Jenna has time.
Yeah, it's the same. There's a strain of the libertarian right that simply thinks that this is whatever logic you used on Ukraine, you have got to use on Israel, as if there's no unique, obvious, detailed history of what's going on in that land and whose side people have taken in the past. It's just absurd to do that math, but they're doing it.
Jenna?
I think the elected officials' response that refused to condemn this, Joe Biden for taking several days and still having a barbecue. I mean, he doesn't care about optics, even as much as the Obama administration is. And it's absolutely disrespectful to not only to Israel and to the families and the victims and the Americans that are currently over in Israel trying to get home. But it's disrespectful to the American people that we don't have a president who's willing to set aside a barbecue and a few other things to come out and directly address the American people and take reporters' questions. So while he did ultimately condemn the atrocity, it was ridiculous that it took him several days.
Yeah. All right, we have time for the exit question then. So I just want a simple yes or no answer, because that's all the time we have. Do you believe the events we are watching right now are a direct fulfillment of Bible prophecy? Todd?
No.
Aaron?
No, but by the end of the weekend, that could be a yes. Like, I'm that close.
Jenna?
Maybe.
I like how I said only a yes or no answer. I'll let the lady get away with going off script. Again, chivalry is not dead.
I've lived in that world before.
I was going to answer yes, but also no. No, but also yes.
Yes. I thought you were contemplating doing that and then decided I'll just go with a no and answer the. Were you contemplating doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought maybe you were. All right. When we come back here for part 2 of the Deace Group, I don't want to skip topics, man, but I can't wait to lay my prediction on you guys for this week. And I want you all to know, without giving it away, it is sincere. It is not a troll. I know nowadays...
Can it be both?
Well, now I was just about to say, nowadays it is hard to distinguish between the two, given the laugh track that we are as a civilization right now. We're a yakety yak, don't come back kind of a thing. But I can't wait to lay my prediction. This is maybe one of my favorite predictions I've ever made because I really believe it. All right, that makes it even better. We'll get to that and more here next. Well, if it seems as if events in this world continue to make things seem as uncertain as they have been in quite a while, then make sure you're prepared. It is better to be ready for something and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that's why you want to contact My Patriot Supply for their 3-month emergency food kits. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks. So you get the full complement of the 2,000 plus calories that you and your loved ones need every single day. There's more than a dozen types of meals and sides. So you can constantly mix and match for variety as well. Stays good for up to 25 years with proper shelf life. Free delivery too. So just you have that peace of mind should this Let's Go Brandon thing go next level. All right. We have a record amount of Americans I saw today working 2 jobs. Highest number in American history right now. Highest number in American history. So, folks, just make sure you're ready. Go to preparewithdeace.com. That's where you want to go. Free shipping and 25% off. Free shipping and 25% off when you go to preparewithdeace.com. That's preparewithdeace.com. Let's welcome back in Jenna Ellis, former Trump administration attorney. She's with the American Family Association's radio network now as well. As we continue on with your weekly look at the week that was, let's get to issue 3. DeSantis rises to the occasion.
There has been one person who's risen to the occasion when it comes to the events in Israel this week, and that person is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Nowhere was this more apparent than his lengthy appearance on MSNBC, of all places.
I think in the past, there may have been some people in Israel thought Hamas could be managed, but I also think that there was an impulse pushing against them taking care of Hamas once and for all, because they would always come under international commendation. People would start attacking Israel. I mean, how many resolutions has the United Nations done attacking Israel over the years? So I think that there was that practical political consideration that maybe caused some Israeli leaders to hold back. In terms of Iran, look, this is personal for me in the sense of I served in Iraq back in 2007, 2008. We were in places like Fallujah and Ramadi, mostly Sunni Arab al-Qaeda fighters at the time. But most of the casualties U.S. troops were suffering were at the hands of Iranian-backed Shia militias. They killed hundreds of our troops in Iraq, probably over 1,000. Of course, they were responsible through Hezbollah for killing our Marines back in 1983 in the Beirut barracks bombing. So Iran has a lot of American blood on its hands. Look, I think that Israel should be focused on uprooting Hamas to make this a larger role. I think does have some risks, but I would say the United States should turn every screw so that Iran is not getting money flowing into its coffers, particularly with their oil. I think Biden's administration thought that there could be a rapprochement here. They eased off on some of the sanctions. There's been a lot of discussion on the $6 billion. I think that was a mistake, but they've been getting a lot of money leading up to this. The Iranian regime, when they're funding terrorism, it's not necessarily a practical consideration. This is their religious and ideological worldview. This is why they exist as a government, and you're just not going to be able to have a peaceful situation with a government like that. So turn the screws on them financially, dry up their ability to fund terrorism. You know, that's something we should all be able to agree on.
That clip was just one. I mean, everybody knows where I stand in this thing, and I hate sounding like a homer. You guys know that. I'd much rather be a contrarian. But here's the reality. In my view, there's been only one national figure in the last week that has demonstrated presidential leadership, sanity, vision, communication. And instead of, oh no, half the country hates me, so let me go get a bureaucrat that they'll like and make him the face of my administration, and he eventually usurps it, he actually goes to MSNBC, goes on CNN. Listen to what he is saying to an MSNBC audience. That's the exact same answer he'd give on a show like this. Name the non-Islamist, non-communist that if you listen to that, would walk away thinking that's just completely unreasonable, and I can't believe only a bigot would say such things. There isn't one. This idea that there's no way to persuade people, there's no way to shift polls, that we have to just be slaves to demographics, that we cannot choose and find people capable of actually going on offense and shifting numbers and moving opinion. This is what you just saw there is a masterclass in how Florida, when a generation ago was the state of hanging chads. A decade ago, Barack Obama was winning it twice, and now the Democratic Party doesn't exist in Florida. Why? Because Democrats in places like Palm Beach County saw this guy explain social problems and controversial issues to them just like that, and then effectively act on that. And they're like, well, I guess, I'm a Democrat, but I'd rather live in a sane world, so let's vote for sanity. It can be done. We do not have to sit here and just grind 5-year axes with Bibi Netanyahu, which is the equivalent. And dude, I think Bibi Netanyahu is dramatically overrated. I watched him issue the worst lockdown maybe on planet Earth on his people. But now's not the time. Like I said yesterday, you don't show up at somebody's funeral when the loved ones are sobbing and mourning their loss and say, hey man, your uncle stiffed me for 5 G's? Now's not the time, douche. Not the time. Maturity's okay. Trying to win people over is okay. Leadership's okay. Having a plan is okay. Having a depth of knowledge is okay. Those things are okay for a president to have. So with that, true or false, this week was Ron DeSantis' finest hour as a presidential candidate. Aaron, you go first this time.
Absolutely it was. And it was so consistent, and he's been all over the place in terms of geographically and all over the airwaves. He was in Iowa last weekend on message. He was in New Hampshire yesterday on message. He's been on CNN, MSNBC. He's been on BlazeTV on message, with that message of this is their worldview. We cannot negotiate with it. I believe Israel's role is to defend themselves and to carry out themselves, but there are things that we can do to prevent Iran from. It's just consistency. It's on message. It's clear. And I will tell you this. I watched that entire 15-minute interview on MSNBC, the clip from which you just heard. I watched the entire thing. It was jarring, and I use that word on purpose. It was jarring, sitting there, not being like, oh crap, don't screw up, don't step on that rake. Don't put your foot in your mouth. No.
Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. It was jarring, not even worrying about that with him. Because you just know this is where he stands, this is where he has stood, and this is where he will continue to stand because he has the record and he has the worldview to back that up. That has to count for something. It has to count for something. If it doesn't, we're in a really bad place.
I'm prepared to say we're in a really bad place.
We're in a really bad place,
Todd.
Steve.
The part, Aaron, you said there about not being worried is why I'm actually saying false. This is who Ron DeSantis is all the time, and that's what I've been trying to tell you. Especially when reality is on the menu and when hard decisions are the menu. This guy's clutch. He always comes through. I saw a statistic recently that Tony Gwynn's lifetime average with 2 strikes on him was still above 300. This guy's Tony Gwynn. He's Wade Boggs. Just singles and doubles all over the place. But you guys all, and even when I say you guys, people on our side have become addicted to this. Chicks dig the long ball, man. You all need the show all the time. This guy, when it's real life, always comes through. When it's the campaign, when it's almost only the show, and it's arbitrary, where you raise your hand and do this, and it's all awkward, it's all stupid, it's all juvenile, yeah, then anybody's going to be clumsy. But a lot of us would suck up there because it's so stupid. But when hard decisions have to be made, this is your guy. Once again, I'm going to tell you again, he's right there. Take him. No excuses.
Jenna?
Here's the thing. Ron DeSantis actually wants to govern. He doesn't just want to be a politician. He doesn't just want to be an entertainer. He doesn't just want to go on television. He actually wants the job to do the job. And that is so different than what we have been used to from a Republican Congress that would rather be in the position of the minority, frankly. What we're seeing in the current Congress with these random motions to vacate, and they can't get their act together, and they all just go on various things. They have all of these different arbitrary, stupid little videos like Nancy Mace wearing a scarlet A saying it's because she's a woman without a voice. I don't even think she's read Nathaniel Hawthorne. I mean, this is so embarrassing that Republicans want just the show instead of actually wanting to do their job. And that is why Ron DeSantis is the best person for the job, because he doesn't care about all of that. He actually wants to govern, and he actually wanted to govern Florida, and he actually won because he understands what governing versus politicking means. And so I think that, yes, this has been a phenomenal week for Governor DeSantis because he has risen above the novice, frankly, stupid moves of his campaign. It has been a terrible campaign, but he is a phenomenal candidate. And when he has an opportunity to show his worldview and to show how he governs, how he has a very intricate understanding of all of these issues, people who are serious on all sides will gravitate towards that.
Exit question. Who has a better chance to be the next president of the United States? Ron DeSantis or RFK Jr.? Aaron.
Ron DeSantis.
Why do you think that is?
I just think the apparatus of if you can win your primary, the apparatus of having the GOP behind you probably outweighs being an independent candidate.
Todd?
Ron DeSantis.
Jenna?
It depends. I think that RFK Jr. has a huge opportunity to be president if it is a Trump versus Biden and he is an independent or a libertarian and has ballot access on the Libertarian Party. If Governor DeSantis wins the primary, then absolutely Governor DeSantis. And this is why it's so important that we choose rightly as conservatives in the primary.
I think it is possible if we have a Trump-Biden election. I absolutely think it's possible that RFK Jr. could get like 25% of the popular vote. So what is it? What did Pro get? 19?
Somewhere around there.
I think it's possible he could get 30 and maybe still not win a single electoral college vote because those are winner take all by plurality, right? I think it is possible he could get 30% of the popular vote. Am I crazy? But not win anything in the Electoral College because of the partisan breakdown, Aaron, that you just talked about. There are just too many places, no matter who is running, Democrats cannot win or lose, and the same goes for Republicans. Like, what's a state he could win?
New Hampshire.
Okay.
Vermont.
Maybe that one. Maybe New Hampshire I could see. Vermont I couldn't. Too Democratic. New Hampshire
You're
maybe.
still underestimating.
I think it's possible he could win Texas. And I know that's a huge...
Really?
I do. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of people on the ground there who are so frustrated with the current state of the Republican Party. And there are so many disaffected Democrats. And Texas is on the verge of becoming blue. And if we see some of the moderates of the disaffected Democrats go over to RFK, I think that because of the current composition of Texas, it's possible. And I think that it's possible that he would get several electoral college votes. I don't think enough ultimately to win, but definitely to be a spoiler.
Or throw it to the House. Yeah. Todd, did you want to say something quickly before we move on?
I was just going to say, I still think you're underestimating the magical power of vaccines. That's what he's attached to.
Okay. Issue 4, kicker question. What's the dumbest thing you've seen on Twitter about this primary so far?
Laura Loomer's entire account, we'll say that. And also this whole thing that you are disloyal as an American or that you can't choose someone in the primary, that Ron DeSantis had to wait until 2028. This whole notion of loyalty is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that that's even a question, it's like these people have never seen a primary before. So there is so much stupidity out there, but I think everyone has the opportunity to choose the best candidate. We can discuss and debate without calling each other these ridiculous names.
We can? Let's try it. Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
The Unholy Alliance tweet/press release that the Trump campaign put out in late July, trying to say that Ron DeSantis was colluding with Democrat judges and juries and the deep state to try to indict Donald Trump. You remember that?
But I am reliably informed that unless we have Trump back in the White House, Americans won't know what is true again.
Yeah.
Aaron, I'm reliably informed of that. Todd?
Everything Mike Pence has said, including announcing
There's a good answer. Every time Mike Pence opens his mouth. That's a great answer. Maybe the best one so far. All right. I've been waiting for this. Let's get to predictions. Aaron, I'll let you go first.
Jim Jordan actually will become House Speaker.
Boy, you know what? You don't realize it, brother. You just fed right into my prediction.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you did. Todd?
The Hawkeyes will cover the spread against Wisconsin.
No,
so they'll lose by less than 10?
No, they
I'm not even saying.
That's the spread. It's less. It's 10. You're favored by 10.
Bad weather. Neither team is good. And it'll be ugly.
I know neither one of you are high on your teams because this week when you all play each other, you're both insufferable. And this is the first time anybody has said anything about the game between you and Aaron all week long. So I know both of you just hate your teams. I can tell. Nobody's confident.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. Jenna, go ahead.
Well, Aaron took mine. That I also think that Jim Jordan will be elected speaker, and I think that McCarthy will actually help in that role to whip the count. So I'll add a second prediction. I do not think that Biden will ultimately be the Democrat nominee.
I don't either. I don't either. They're not going to orchestrate 91 felony indictments against Donald Trump and everything else they have done, and then they're going to sit here at this time next year and they're going to be like, all right, let's just hope that Joe Biden doesn't fall down the stairs of Air Force One. That's not how these kinds of plots work. They're not going to do that. Okay. My prediction: your 2028 GOP ticket, Mace Gaetz. Don't laugh. Don't even laugh. I mean,
this is
if Gaetz gets Jim Jordan speaker, now granted the process was a fustercluck of epic proportions and a turd in a punch bowl, but if we walk out of the room and Jim Jordan is the speaker, dude, he's a freaking statesman. All right, when he's not going to the Barbie premiere in a pink suit, he's a freaking statesman in this era. Nancy Mace is the embodiment of this era. She is everything we've seen the last few years pay off for Trump, taken to the next level. And now you put it in an attractive female package on top of that. And she just, with just complete shamelessness, like no self-awareness at all. None. She's perfect. Perfect. Mace Gaetz is the 2028 GOP ticket.
You remember?
It's going to shoot me.
You remember how it used to make me crazy on this show from the very beginning when we'd start talking about elections way before their time? You remember that?
Yep. Watch your back. Is that what you're saying?
That's all I'm saying.
But in fairness, point of order, I'm not necessarily talking elections in a technocratic sense. I am making a broader cultural dialectic here.
Oh,
it just happens to include...
Look at you, Mr. Nuance and Subtlety.
Well, you point a gun at me, I'm going to come up with all kinds of nuances, brother. All right? Jenna, always good to see you. Have a good weekend. All right, take care.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Mace Gaetz.
What's the campaign?
Recognize.
What's the campaign slogan?
She's on top. Gosh. Instead of I'm with her, dude, the woman, Nancy Mace is 30 seconds away from just doing a wet t-shirt contest at this point. Straight up, dude, I show up at a prayer meeting. Hey, my boyfriend was about to drill me, but I had to tell him, I got to go to the prayer meeting. So, keep it in your pants, son.
Is anybody validated? Does she have OnlyFans?
Would it matter?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Feedback Friday is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace, he's Todd, and he's Aaron McIntyre. You are you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think. If you're also looking forward to the Mace Gaetz Fetterman Buttigieg 2028 election clash, as we are, and we were just breaking that down here. Todd, you seemed especially excited and enthusiastic, an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, in fact.
Cutting myself.
Is that the stigmata, or are you just that depressed?
No, it's the latter.
Dude, our friend Paul Alexander just sent me a screen grab. Mace, again, with a very, very tight shirt. Very tight. Nancy Mace, first congresswoman to ever enter a wet t-shirt contest while in office. Buy, sell, or hold.
That's a good value bet, isn't it?
I'm buying that. I'm buying that. Anyway, here's Mace and Gaetz together with Steve Bannon. That's your 2028 ticket right there. You know it. That's the era in which we live.
You're just
the less serious you are, the more likely you are to succeed. Because as a people, we're not serious.
You're Steve Buscemi's character now in Armageddon, the asteroid movie, where they're they're on the rock and he's gone insane and he's like riding the missile like Slim Pickens. That's who you are right now. Just to make clear,
I thought you were going to say I'm Steve Buscemi's character in Con Air.
No.
When they're on the plane, because he's a serial killer, but when we're on the plane, ironic. Dancing on a plane to a song performed by a band whose members died in a plane crash. I thought that's what you were going to say. Yeah.
I'm sure that's coming too, though.
I freaking love Con Air.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of that era.
Classic.
Hands off the bunny. I love that movie. Cyrus the Virus. What a freaking cool name that was. Man. We used to be able to do schlock. We can't even do schlock anymore, man. I tried to watch my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story, and I'm a big Poe guy. I was when I was a kid. My favorite Edgar Allan Poe story, Fall of the House of Usher. So I find out Netflix is doing a big budget version of it.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the same people that did like Midnight Mass and what was the Hill House? Those are great series on Netflix. And so I'm all excited to get the debut, go to watch the first episode last night. It's Queer Eye there. Everybody's gay. I mean, everybody's gay. Everybody's gay. The whole thing's gay. Everything's gay. I lasted 15 minutes, man. Which, by the way, given how gay the show is, that's still longer than Lindsey Graham would have lasted watching it. If you know what I'm saying, brother. Todd, your thoughts?
Still cutting.
Where are we? I've lost myself. Did I mention this is hour 2? Did I do all that yet? Let us know what you think. Maybe not actually right now. What the heck? Email us. Steve@stevedeace.com is how you can do that. DEACE. Like us on Facebook. Me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you listen via the podcast, we love you. Particularly if you're enduring whatever the heck it is we were just doing. Leave us a 5-star review if you love us. If you don't like us, maybe say nothing. But also, hit subscribe or follow if you're on iTunes. That way, every single time we do a brand new episode, it will show up in your feed. And thank you to all of you that have done all of those things for us already. We greatly appreciate them, as we also appreciate Relief Factor. Everyone deals with pain from time to time, especially as we get older. That's chronic pain from too much inflammation in the joints. And what if we told you there was a 70% chance we have found your solution? Where'd we get that number? Well, over the years, about 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor see such great results in those 3 weeks or less that they stick around long term. That's how we got that number. So what do you got to lose for $20? $20 to see if there's if you're one of the 70% of people who see such fantastic results in 3 weeks or less with the 3-week quick start from our friends over at Relief Factor. Just go to relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com, or give them a call at 800-4. That's the number 4. 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF, or relieffactor.com. All right, are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
Let's go.
All right, let us begin. My name is Jeff. My name is Jeffrey Holt. I'm a 40-year-old man, never married, no kids. Just before my 20th birthday, my dad died, and I've been taking care of my disabled mom and younger sister ever since then. I get told I'm a good son, and it is honorable what I do. However, all my relationships end at some point with them saying it is either I choose them or taking care of my family. And I can't apparently have both. I cannot stand the thought of letting them go to a home, especially just because I want a relationship and wife. Sincerely, a fan and a guy trying to follow God's path. Jeff, I'm going to, if I can call you Jeff for short, I'm going to suggest that you have. The man that wrote most of the New Testament didn't have a wife or children. You have chosen a life of service. Now, being a husband, by the way, and a father is supposed to also be a life of service. Amen. Yeah. You have chosen the same thing. You have chosen to stand in the gap as the patriarch of a family, to take care of those less fortunate than you, those that are flesh of your flesh and blood of your blood, that you share DNA with, that you share a family legacy and family line with. You're performing in many respects the duties of a husband and a father. And I understand without a wife, it may feel lonely, and you may not also get some of the benefits that having a wife brings as it went alongside being a husband and a father, and that can be a lonely road. But to me, I mean, you know, you are demonstrating what Paul described as the gift of singleness. And you are putting others before you. And I tip my hat, brother. I mean, I have no idea what size pant you wear. I don't know how much you lift. I don't know what physical shape you're in. I don't know. I don't care about any of that. But dude, you're a man. You are doing the things of real manhood here. And I commend you. Thoughts?
Well, you have unique circumstances no matter what. But the simple truth of the matter is that another problem with our comfortable modern age is that we have lost sight of the fact that taking care of our extended family was part of all of human existence. Our own parents, or, you know, whenever somebody ultimately came into deed, now, you know, there's this home for them over there, and it's not my thing. We have so disillusioned ourselves of, I mean, and especially as Christians, like even beyond our immediate family, you know, called to help our brother. But so I pity. It's certainly not a stain on your character that you're doing this. It's the stain on the women who just can't be bothered by it, or vice versa. If it was the women doing this for a family and it was the man who didn't want to get involved, we are called to so much more than this modern age lies to us about.
I heard you say the sentence, and I'm paraphrasing here. I just can't stand the thought of putting them in a home. God bless you. God bless you, man. You have a depth of character, a depth of faith, a depth of a lot of things that's lacking in our modern age, from both men and women, but especially men. You believe something, you stand for something, and that something is your family. Okay? I heard that sentence, and imagine putting them in a home so you can go do your own thing. Society says, well, yeah, of course, why not? But you have priorities. You stand for something. God bless you.
Amen. I'll just say, dude, it's a badass move, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't admire you for what you've done, the choice that you made. And a great sacrifice. I mean, the first man God ever made, he looked at him and said, it is not good for the man to be alone, so he gave him a wife. And you are performing a priestly duty. You are willing to forego that in order to serve others. I mean, props to you. Let's go here next. I don't take anything from your monologue the other day personally, because I know you weren't speaking to me. That said, I sense that an artificial set of camps were set up in that monologue. The one camp of those who see evil as a human construct and either don't want to see Gaza leveled for Saturday's attack, or people who do see evil as an actual force in the world and are okay with having Gaza leveled. Converting to Orthodox Christianity forces an understanding of the personal and very real force of evil. It also forces a lot of thinking and consideration. 5 years ago, I would have been on the side of leveling Gaza and God will sort them out. Now I have very serious questions that need addressing before calling my representative to urge support for the retaliation that Israel is planning. Not because I don't want to see what happened not because I don't see what happened as evil, it was. Not because I don't see Hamas as evil, they are. But because ignoring intelligence about a civilian slaughter being planned is at best slothful or purposeful for the narrative need of war, which is also evil. Evil plus evil equals evil. And that's why some of us who see the mistakes of the last 2 righteous wars we've been involved in are hesitant about fully, throatily endorsing the leveling of Gaza when no one has demanded an answer of why it was even able to have happen in the first place. I'm still banned on Twitter, so maybe you're seeing things I'm not, but those I listen to who are demanding answers aren't saying anything against bombing areas from which rockets are launched or bombing tunnels. It's the full-scale leveling of Gaza that seems like a mere power play than seeking justice, especially since someone knew about the attack ahead of time. I appreciate all you do, even if we're in disagreement on this issue. And I wouldn't even write about it, except I sense there's a Hegelian dialectic that is being operated from, and it's not the correct dialectic. That's Andrew. For those who don't know what the Hegelian dialectic is, it is when the thesis and the antithesis, so the two sides of an argument, merge effectively into the same side. Andrew, thank you for your note, but you're actually, in my opinion, misusing Hegelian dialectic. Let me give you what I think is a proper example, and you're free to disagree, and so are others. But I believe this is a more proper application of Hegelian dialectic. When someone flies the Palestinian and trans flag simultaneously, that would be the Hegelian dialectic. What did you say the Babylon Bees headline was a few months ago? Aaron, what was that?
No, this was just this week.
Oh, this week. Yeah, what was it?
Rashida Tlaib's Palestinian flag throws Rashida Tlaib's trans flag off the roof of the Senate office building.
That's a Hegelian dialectic. All right. The thesis and the antithesis. All right. So we're going to have total debauchery while people who are, if there's a such thing as militant prudity, this sect of Islam, and that probably isn't even an adequate enough description of it, but it's the best I can come up with right now. So militant prudity, and you're flying the same flag that represents militant prudity as you are total human debauchery. In what world would those two? In what sane world would those two things be on the same side?
No.
They would not be. That's the Hegelian dialectic. That's the thesis and antithesis merging into a single narrative. There's other factors here that I think you don't understand. And people that are like you that are bringing these things up don't understand. Hamas isn't there's not like a Pentagon of the Hamas. We can just go bomb their Pentagon. This is organic to the water table of this culture. They had elections over there. They voted these people into power. The reality is, Israel should have leveled Hamas before this event. And this event only occurred not because of an intelligence failure, but a courage failure. Should have never given them sovereign space in Gaza back in 2005. Should have never given away any land for peace. And should have never tolerated having this evil at its doorstep from the very beginning. Someone breaks into your home and slaughters half your family and takes the other half of your family, Andrew, with them, prisoner. You find out about it after it occurred. And then you find out that they came in through a wide open front door. The front door wasn't locked. They just walked right in through the front door, slaughtered half your family, and took the rest of them away as prisoners. You have two choices. A, you could stop everything right now because, you don't want to overreact to such a tragedy. You don't want to worry about collateral damage. So let's investigate who is the Nimrod that left the front door open. How is this possible? I've told them every day when I leave, lock the door behind me. who's the idiot who left the door open so they could come in. Or you could realize that the clock is ticking on the people that have been captured and rounding up and getting justice to the people who killed your loved ones. And so that is your first priority, is to take advantage of that limited window of time that you have right now to act. Who in their right mind would say, listen, what we need right now truly is to audit this situation. We need we need to figure out how this happened. No one would do that. Not to mention, you're not being asked of anything. Do you live in Israel? No. Nothing's being asked of you. This isn't Ukraine. You're not being asked to bear any burden here whatsoever. I truly don't understand this argument. I don't. And I've seen this argument a lot on social media. What is it about this argument that I'm missing? Because I don't understand it on any level at all.
Aaron and I were talking about this a little before the show. I think to give the maximum benefit of the doubt, it is a product of people being worked over with lies and deceit and propaganda for a long time now. And obviously in most recent history with Ukraine, with transgenderism and pronouns and all that, with COVID, obviously. And so the next thing comes along is this. And it seems like I've been worked over enough. I feel like there's this, at face value, everything I confront is a lie. The thing about this, and I alluded to this already, this is clarifying because it is this issue, uniquely this issue, Israel. This is the issue that was dealt with before the three examples I just brought forth. And if you get into the details at all, some of which, as Steve already mentioned, why Gaza even exists within the fashion it is now, this is an opportunity to get out of the fog. It's right there. It's far more plain than the propaganda of the past on those issues. It's an opportunity to set that aside. I know you think it must exist, and there's going to be aspects of it that exist around the edges, but this is way clearer in terms of how the modern mind just does the math of things than the other issues I've been, just because of how badly we have been worked on. This is an opportunity to rescue us.
I get that, but I get that instinct. I don't understand why it applies here. Did we just hear about Hamas like 6 months ago?
No, that's my point.
This thing's been going on for generations.
That's my point.
These people have killed our own people. They just killed 25 of our own people, and we're still counting bodies.
That's why this should be more clear to this person. It's not new. This
isn't Ukraine.
Exactly.
Nobody knew what a Zelensky was a year and a half ago.
Exactly.
There is we're equivocating things that ought not be equivocated. Right. There is no equivalence to Ukraine and Israel, in my mind. That doesn't mean that the United States should be involved with troops on the ground in any of that, in either case, but we're just not capable, I think, of making those distinctions. In Ukraine, this is basically a proxy fight between elitists versus elitists with no discernible goal or end in sight. We don't know really who the good guys are or who the bad guys are, because I think both sides are bad guys. Okay? Eastern Ukraine, there's a lot of provinces or states or whatever over there who want to be a part of the Russian Federation or whatever you call it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's no truth there, regardless of whether there was an intelligence failure or ignorance of intelligence. That does not, I don't know who needs to hear this, gosh. I hope there's not a single soul in our audience that needs to hear this. Regardless of whether this was ignored intelligence or an intelligence failure, that does not morally paint over what Hamas has done.
Correct.
Or is doing.
And will do again.
And will do again if left alone or not responded to with what needs to be done. Instead, what I'm seeing a lot of, there are a lot of people who just think that this is the exact same thing. Is it correct that we don't pay enough attention, and we don't fight on issues domestically like the border? Yes. That doesn't mean that evil was perpetrated last weekend. Evil was not perpetrated last weekend, I should say. Instead, what you see is this just chaotic pendulums of reactionaryism. I oppose boots on the ground.
You're describing a godless society that has no plumbing.
I oppose boots on the ground in Israel. That means you're an anti-Semite. Well, I haven't seen that much of that. What Hamas did was evil. That means you want forever war.
They killed 25 Americans. This is one of the 5 worst. This is one of the 5 worst terrorist attacks in terms of fatalities in the history of our republic. What are we supposed to do about that? Just let them parade around their scalps as propaganda? 25 people are dead, not coming home because of these people. I truly don't understand this. And even if you are hardcore, Rushdoony is my avatar, Christian Reconstructionist Reformed, and it's replacement theology, or you're a heretic, and Gary DeMar doesn't go far enough. And a lot of you have no clue about anything I just said. But the people who do know what I just said, they got all the dog whistles. I'm talking to you. Even if that's you, and you hate Israel, it's Islamic jihadists, guys. They killed 25 of our own people this time. How many have they killed over the last few decades? Even if there's no prophetic worth of Israel at all, that God is done with the Jews. And even if your life verse is in Matthew, when the Jewish leaders say to Pontius Pilate, when they bring Jesus to be arrested, his blood on our hands and heads and the heads of our children. If that's your life verse, as you read Rushdoony in the original Greek, even if that's you, these are jihadists, guys. It's not even about Israel. It's about the enemy. For goodness sakes. You're not smart. You're not nuanced. This is stupid. Any other generation of America, the instinct would have been, hey, we're going to go over there and kill Hamas before the Jewish people do, because they killed 25 of our people. That would have been the instinct in any other era. I'm not saying it's right, but in any other era, it would have been, so when's the 101st go in and just make Hamas wish their daddies wore condoms that night? You killed 25 of our people? We'll see you in paradise. Except, no, you'll be in hell. Any other generation of Americans would have reacted like that. We're sitting here like, well, do you think we should have a blue ribbon panel? And let's investigate the intelligence failure.
Steve, what
the hell is this?
One of the most, and it's hard for me to not take this personally and vicariously through you and Todd as well. And I shouldn't allow myself, and usually I don't, 99.9% of the times I don't, allow myself to take anon Twitter user with 100 followers seriously. But one of the most disappointing things of the past 3 years that I saw this week, somebody tweeted at me and said something along the lines of, you guys were really good on COVID, and you guys were really good on Ukraine, but you're awfully gullible this time around. We have no credibility all of a sudden.
And we lost it because we think people who decapitated babies and went to a music festival and lit people on fire.
We're going to do Zapruder film level analysis of dead babies burned alive to prove that they weren't actually beheaded. That's what we're going to do.
I just truly don't understand the argument. And in fact, I think the argument's so dumb, I just spent the last few minutes absolutely destroying a niche subculture within Christianity that I've been very friendly to over the years and have a lot of friends within, by the way. And most American Christians don't know, understand, or even heard the names and the references that I just made. Because I think it's that dumb. If we are this broken now, that we cannot be moved to resolve in the face of such evil, then I just don't think this is civilization worth even trying to save at that point. I just don't. I just don't. And therefore it may not be. And I'm actually okay with that. I mean, I don't know what that means. The granddaughter I have on the way, the children I have moving into adulthood, I don't know. Here's what I do know. I trust a God who would spare not even his own son to know what he's doing. So I'm going to trust in him. I have very, very little trust for the people are the problem. And that I first was alerted to this in 2016, and it damn near drove me out of this business. And it's the most frustrating thing I've learned in this job the last decade. The people are the problem. And it's not their people. I didn't say their people, did I? Is that the article I led my sentence with? I said the people. The people are the problem. Even if you have no theological regard for Israel, if we made any form of a theological case,
I've tried to do the opposite by talking about God explicitly says in Deuteronomy, I'm not doing this just because you guys are so great.
No.
They are evil.
Yes.
And this must be punished.
You're not, God did not say to the Jewish people, you're so special, I chose you. No. They were special because they were chosen. Right. We can all sit here and debate theologically whether they're still chosen people or not. What the hell does that have to do with the atrocities that Hamas has just committed and why they should be allowed to continue to walk upon the face of this earth after committing them? What does that have to do with anything? America is a balkanized country of narratives. Zero truth. Zero desire to find it. Zero desire to believe it can be found. Almost little to no desire to seek it. And everybody has their tribe. It's an epistemological Yugoslavia. Everybody has their tribe. I mean, and no one's immune. I mean, when I posted that thing to troll Trump's campaign the other day, did you guys see the comments? How many DeSantis people I cannot believe you abandoned Ron DeSantis.
Yeah. Just no thinking.
I mean, there's no one's immune to this. Like, no one is. No one is. It's an epistemological Yugoslavia, and I just line up with a narrative that I agree with at any particular time. And if you affirm that narrative, we're good. If you don't, then we're not. Regardless of whether the narrative that you're affirming is true or the narrative you don't believe is false. It doesn't matter. All that matters is, love me, rub my monkey. Show me which end of the wood to worship and burn. We are a nation of idolaters. In case you guys were wondering, we're not any less, or at least I'm not any less worked up. That break went by pretty fast.
Break.
I mean, that break went by pretty fast. Those commercial breaks go by fast when you're losing your poop. This has nothing to do with your theological beliefs about the nation of Israel. We do not tolerate this behavior on this planet. When Israel's only religiously observant prime minister turned his people over to be a human experiment to Pfizer, did we say nothing about that because of, we can't criticize the seed of Abraham? Is that what we did?
No.
I believe I actually had numerous rants for an entire year about that.
Yes.
When Benjamin Netanyahu unleashed the worst lockdown maybe in the world, did I not bring it up to one of my best friends, Daniel Horowitz? Just, it's Israel, so they can just do whatever the hell they want. We never talked about that, never addressed that.
That did not happen.
Did not happen. I don't care if the name's Hamas, Hummus, your Maz. I don't care. You behead children and you torch innocents out in the open. You're done. You're done breathing. I don't care. Period. That's it. That's all there is. There isn't any more. We're done here. We're done. And you're done.
Yes.
Should be just that simple, man.
Also, like when you groom kids, you're fired.
Yes.
When they were burning down inner cities over BLM, you were pretty clear. That's wrong. Send people in.
Yes.
Stop this. It's the same.
I didn't ask for a political, religious check of credit. Oh, you're of that tribe. Oh, then do whatever you want. Nope. If we're now going to say that people are denied justice because we have religious differences with them, let's just forget the whole love your neighbor as you love yourself is the second commandment, right? According to Christ. Let's just forget that. I know of a religion that says if you're not part of our tribe, if you don't believe with all of our creeds, that we can just treat you any way that we want and you're entitled to nothing. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Islam. That's what they teach. We're better than this.
Yeah.
Tell me, I gotta believe within this audience we're better than this. Please, lie to me. We have to be better than this. And spare me did you know that the media is run by 5 extreme Zionist Jews? And yet we can sit here and point to open Islamic propaganda in that same corporate news media every single day. Come on, man. Come on. You're not the smart people. You've allowed your own narrative to cloud your judgment. Some of you think in this reformed camp, and yet maybe I should let this go, but I'm not going to. Because I've done a lot of favorable coverage of this camp over the years. And so now, you know what? You gotta punish your own. You gotta take out your own trash. Fair?
I'm popping a little popcorn over here.
Okay, I'm gonna take some trash out. I'm with you. I mock all those Christian leaders who sound the shofar in the pulpit and seem to care more about following Moses than Jesus. I get you. I'm with you on all of that. How many times have I mocked stuff like that over the years, going back to when I was a local show host? Yeah. But you're not different than them on this. You're actually just co-idolaters. So you just like you accuse them of seeing everything through their prophetic beliefs of Israel, you're doing the same thing. That's what you're doing, bro. Well, because it's Israel, those images must be faked. It must be. You're not any different, man. You think you're different than John Hagee? You're not. You're on the same quarter. He's heads, you're tails, or you can be heads and he can be tails. But you're the same. In fact, we're kind of back to what I said on this show just a couple days ago about what would happen. People just break down into camps, sectarian camps. And that would be their truth, right? Didn't I just do like a monologue on this a couple days ago? And what's funny is this crowd claims they're the discerning ones. They're the ones that won't go to passions and didn't fall for the Schofield Bible. No, you didn't fall for the Schofield Bible, but you did fall for Hamas propaganda. So congratulations. Take the damn Rushdoony avatar off your Facebook page, please. No one goes to the Church of Rushdoony. We go to the Church of Jesus. And by the way, if that's you, you're a papist. How you like them apples? This portion of the show brought to you by AMAC.
I need a smoke.
There is an organization out there that still backs Obamacare, gun control, and extreme trainee policies that endanger our children. And while they claim to be bipartisan, the truth is that the last election, 95% of the donations went to Democrats. That organization is the AARP, and it just simply doesn't represent the values of American seniors. Fortunately, though, there is a patriotic alternative. It's AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, proudly champions Americans' right to free speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. AMAC is the leading patriotic advocacy and benefits organization, and it defends parents' rights to protect their children as well as they're fighting to restore America's election integrity, too. AMAC is pushing back against the efforts to defund police, weaken our borders, and indoctrinate and corrupt our youth. And it's got more than 2 million members nationwide, pro-faith, pro-family, pro-freedom, but they can't do it alone. Joining gives you access to special low rates on cell phones and plans, health and wellness products, travel and lodging, vision, dental, and prescription drugs. So let's join today and send AARP a strong message. They don't represent American seniors anymore. Join AMAC today at amac.us/DACE. 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 I kind of feel like maybe I should move on now. Even though I can tell that you are particularly entertained by this.
So is your email inbox the same in terms of propensity of some of these arguments that you've received as what you see on social media?
Yeah. I get them like that. I get them in my inbox too. Yeah. I had a woman send me a note today. Have you ever heard of the Schofield Bible? I mean, I've only done like 50 shows on it in the history of my career. Okay. I am sure, though. I'm sure Hamas, as they flame-throwered Jewish children, asked them, have you heard of the Schofield Bible? Here's my answer. No. No. God, as you pointed out, Todd, did not say to these Semitic people thousands of years ago, you are so holy and cherished and special. And I've just been waiting for someone to rise to my level of transcendence. And so we're co-partners in this. No. He took a nomadic people that there was nothing particularly unique or special about and said, just so everybody knows it's me doing this. Just so everybody knows I'm the one laying the wood here. I'm going to take you losers who have no homeland, no history, no legacy, no lineage that you're aware of, because I promised this to your father Abraham hundreds of years ago. And so now, you up. See those pagans over there? See the Hamases over there? The Hittites, Canaanites. See these Jebusites? See all those people over there? Control-Alt-Delete's the mission, and you're the button. Go get them.
Because they're evil.
Because they're evil. Yeah, because they're evil. I don't care if the teenage Jewish girl in Tel Aviv, or I'm sorry, in Gaza, if she went to the music festival and got torched, and I don't care if 10 minutes before she got torched, she was engaged in the most depraved lesbian sex fest while wearing rainbow underwear you could possibly imagine. You are not permitted to treat people this way. And the next keystroke on the keyboard, Todd, is a period. That's it, man. We don't treat people this way. Period. No commas, no codicils, no, period. And if you do, we should end you. That's it. That's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters other than, no, we're not going to permit that behavior on this planet, period. That's it.
But even if it has nothing to do with Israel or even foreign affairs, this is my question, psychologically, emotionally, does a lot of this in this camp, whether they understand it or not, have something to do with this basically on all things, whether it's your kids being transed or shutting down the entire government for like just this kind of Jesus take the wheel philosophy, like this just going your own way while the world burns?
I don't know, because the other argument, I'm trying to figure out what Tucker Carlson is saying, and I don't understand it. We're so America first now that if you're upset that 25 Americans got killed in Israel and want the people who did it punished, you don't care about the border?
No, I agree.
You don't care. You don't care about the unemployment rate.
I totally agree.
What's America First about there? It's because it was 22 people 48 hours ago. Now it's 25. So does anybody know what the magic number of Americans who could be killed on foreign soil is before their lives matter and deserve justice? Before America First applies to them, or is America First only in the contiguous United States?
It's amazing. You're proving the point. All the bad arguments are out there simultaneously competing because that's a non-theological American First. Then what I just said is a theological America Last. It's not supposed to be either. I mean, with it, we're going into default positions.
It's very simple. If you do these savage acts to people, we end you. And that we doesn't have to be my government. I just mean like collectively decent, non-savage peoples of the earth. We end you. That's it. You're done. You've chosen. You have said to us, "I really don't deserve to take another breath on this planet," and we agree. We agree. And then after we end you, we'll go back to fighting each other. Okay. But for now, your indecency is intolerable, so you have to go.
You're making C.S. Lewis's argument at the beginning of Mere Christianity about how the difference of right and wrong that's built into us is it leads us towards God. But he says all these people who want to be smart on the subway and have a conversation with you in a debate, well, right and wrong is a relative term. Well, then if you stick out your foot while they're walking by and you trip them, does anybody stand up and have that same argument? Well, right and wrong. No, they said, I don't know.
Is the person who was tripped, does they fit my narrative?
Right.
Do they vote like me?
Right.
Do they have the same idols I do? Do they speak the same language I do? Do they have the same exact creeds? And not just religion, but creeds within that religion as me. Do they? Then the answer is no, obviously.
Unreal, but all too real.
I said earlier this week, maybe it was last week, I can't remember, I am convinced that one of the biggest tools that the devil uses, especially in a declining civilization and an increasingly and maybe systematically secular civilization, is that he makes simple things complex and complex things simple. And I think we're seeing that here. What you're laying out is pretty simple. What we're witnessing here is evil. What you witnessed here is all just propaganda. You're proving my point. We cannot exist like this.
No.
We are living in the Tower of Babel.
Yes, we are.
And that story for the people there didn't end up super great, did it? No, it didn't. It's just devoid of truth.
Let me share this example.
It's all semantics. It's all parsing words when words need not be parsed, and not parsing words when maybe they should be. President Trump.
Here's a great example of what you were just saying there. This is an email I just got from Daryl. The U.S. and WHO medical establishments practice the beheading of babies in the womb, and politicians maintain guidelines and aid guidelines and urge and subsidize the beheaders with armed forces and black-robed apologists and judges. I have to ask, Daryl, you ever listened to this show before? Is this your first day? Have we not addressed these things in the past that Daryl's talking about?
Yep.
So then I guess Hamas is good then. I guess if we don't punish everything, you punish nothing. This is what a 3-year-old says. Hey, you let my brother get away with it, so it's okay that I do. Have I not been engaged in everything he's talking about my entire career on a daily basis? Yes, and you know why? For the same reasons I'm engaged here. If you do evil to this level, we should end you. Or make it extremely difficult, if we permit you to continue to breathe, to conduct that behavior in a civilized setting ever again. Have we... I just don't understand it, man. I don't. Hey, you know what? People invaded your home and they have your wife and kids hostage, but don't call the police because 3 years ago they took the knee during George Floyd. Right? Same logic. There's no logic. None. This is epistemological nuclear winter, man. We just can't think. Even on the simplest of things. We punish savagery. I don't care if it's Naftali Bennett surrendering his people to be experiments like it's the 1930s to Pfizer. I don't care if it's Bibi Netanyahu with the worst lockdown maybe in the world. I don't care if it's Planned Parenthood. When people do bad things, they should be punished and criticized for it, called out for it. It's just, and I have to ask myself, if this is going on in this audience, I can't even imagine what goes on in some other ones. Folks, Constitution Wealth has helped to align $10 million of prosperity and wealth within our audience with their values, and they want to help you do the same. You no longer have to make the choice between being prophetic and making a profit. All right? You don't have to make money off of big tech and a bunch of demonic entities and pagan entities that are the quote-unquote best investments. If you understand that your wealth is the byproduct of the gifts God gave you and his blessing, and now you want to put that wealth to work to the kingdom, they'll help you with that. Go to constitutionwealth.com/Steve, book an appointment today to get your retirement investments aligned with your values at constitutionwealth.com/Steve. Have a great weekend. John 3:17.